Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Coach Candy here with Coffee Chats. Grab your coffee, your tea, your water, your juice, whatever it is that gets your morning rocking and rolling. Welcome, y'all. It is Thursday, and we are going to have a great time this morning. How's everybody doing? Going to give y'all a minute to jump on here, grab a little caffeine myself, and let's get going. So this morning I want to talk about the space around. Good morning, Yvette. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Like I said, this morning I want to talk about, good morning, Deb. I love everybody jumping on. Usually like to give everybody a minute or two to get on here. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So good morning, Dina. Welcome. So excellent. See many of you jumping on right now. Excellent. So today I want to talk about release and receive. As we start thinking about how to manifest more, destroy the noise, bring what we want to us, whether it be wealth, abundance, prosperity, peace, joy, whatever it is we're trying to change and miss. Good morning. Looks like I missed a couple good sessions this week. We'll have to go back and watch. Absolutely, yes. They've been on fire this week. We've had some great discussions, and I am looking forward to having another great discussion this morning. So yes, I would encourage anyone that missed the last couple to go out and take a look at what we've been talking about this week. Volume has been dialed up for sure. In fact, even earlier this week, we talked about not dialing it down, not playing small. How do you step forward? What does that look like? And a lot around destroy the noise, a lot around standing in just a more powerful space. Yesterday, we talked a lot about extending and really being in a place to put out more kindness, more compassion, and how small little things can change everything. And so, yes, I would highly encourage anyone that's missed the last couple episodes, go out, check them out. Like I said, today we're going to talk about release and receive. And so what do I mean when I say release and receive? What happens oftentimes is we say we want certain things, right? We put it out there, we might meditate, we pray, we get really clear about our manifestation. Oh, you are so funny, Yvette. Thank you. Appreciate that. And so a lot of times we put things out there, and what we don't realize is sometimes what we speak, what we think, what we feel, and how we actually view something are not in alignment with each other. And so for those of you that have been doing the Yes Monthly, you know we got into this really deep this week, last week and this week, as we were talking about money mindset. And so what I want you to think about is your mindset in general. And so we were really getting into money mindset in that space. And I want to reiterate and bring some of that back this morning here. And so when you think about mindset, mindset is really a culmination of four things. It's a function of what you think. It's a function of what you speak. It's a function of how you feel about something, and it's a function of what perspective or what view, how you view something. And so, for example, someone may say, wow, I think, maybe I'm thinking that I want to access more, right? I'm thinking that I want a nice house. I'm thinking that I want this new opportunity. What I'm speaking sometimes is not in alignment with that. And so I might think that I want something, yet what I'm speaking is contradictory to it. So oftentimes we talk more about what we don't want, and so energetically we're drawing that to us. And so when we think about something, we need to make sure our words and our language is consistent with what we say or what we think we want to bring forward. The other thing that's really powerful, and for those of you, we've talked about kind of programming leads to thoughts, leads to feelings, leads to actions, leads to results. Well, our programming, which is a function of our primitive brains, that space of fight, flight, freeze, we've talked about that a little bit too, and our inner child, how it reacts to that primitive brain. When we look at those two components being part of what our programming is, and our programming has been instilled in us from about the age of 7 or 10, so it's something that's there. What happens then is that starts to create our belief system, right? That starts to create our thoughts, which our thoughts truly only have power because we have, 60,000 thoughts or more going on a day. You are not connecting to every one of those thoughts. Most of your thoughts are fleeting. The thoughts that start to be most powerful are the thoughts you connect your emotions to. And so sometimes what happens is we have this thought, we think we want something, and we keep thinking about it. Yet our language and the way we talk about it is either self-deprecating, or it's contradictory, or it's really negative, or we're talking about what we don't want. And then we feel all this really icky, really like intense, really anxious, really frustrated energy. And we don't understand why we're not manifesting what we said we were thinking about. We're like, okay, if what I think about is what I bring about, what we forget, and for those of you that have watched The Secret, good morning, Martha. For those of, I'm interested when people watch things like The Secret. You all know Secret's one of my favorite movies for different reasons, and same with The Shift and other things. And there's always another message underneath the message that's just in the storyline, right? And I'm always fascinated when people say, well, I told the universe what I wanted and it didn't show up. Okay, that's not exactly what that movie says. It's about aligning everything inside of you to think it, believe it, feel it, speak it, and then open up access. This is the release piece. Open up access to receive it in every way possible. What happens is people think something, they speak something else, they feel this negative energy or this pull because they're either pushing away from something or they're in a space that they know they're contradictory, so they get all this angst and anxiety brewing. And then their whole view on how they see something or their belief system is out of whack with the thing that they think about and the thing that they say they want most. And so sometimes we speak what we want, but underlying we're doing the kind of self-deprecating, pulling the carpet out from under us. We'll be like, I want to make 6 figures in my business. We speak it. And then underneath we're playing this game of like, who do you think you are? Seriously, do you think you're gonna make 7 figures? Are you kidding? How are you gonna do that? And so somewhere we're unwinding this energetic force that we have the ability to create. Does that make sense for everybody? So I'm going to pause here for a minute, see what kind of questions. Good morning, Jane. So I want to see what thoughts you have about that as I'm talking about that alignment of those 4 pieces. What you think about, what you speak about, what you feel about, and then how you view or what your perspective or belief about a particular thing. So oftentimes when you're not bringing something to you that you want, when you can't manifest, when you're like, I keep saying I want this, yet I'm not seeing it come up, that is one of the reasons why it's not showing up, is there's a misalignment between those 4 things. The other thing is we get into a space where we try to control it. And so I'm going to just say I'm a self-professed recovering control freak and slight perfectionist or extreme perfectionist. But I am an extreme control freak by nature. And so I'm a recovering control freak as someone who has had to learn how to let go, how to release the need to want to put a stronghold on what I say I want to bring to me and create that space of control where I'm just very tightly trying to micromanage every aspect of what I say I want. And what happens is if you have those 4 things in alignment, and most of the time when you're trying to control it, you don't. So there's a reason, because there's a belief or something that says, I have to do more, I can't just surrender and allow it to come to me. Because when all of those 4 things are in alignment, when they are functioning in a way that what you think about, what you speak about, what you feel about, what you believe about, or how you view it are in sync, the universe rearranges itself to deliver what you need every single time, and usually better than what you can imagine it, right? It's when you start monkeying around with it. It's when you start getting into the space to try to control how, when, and why. And so I want you to think about that for a minute. What we do is oftentimes we say, well, this is how it has to happen, right? It's got to come in the front door with a gold package with a red bow on a silver platter. So we keep looking at that door. We're like gonna break down that door. We're looking for every way to pull it through that door. When we don't realize is when we release it, sometimes it's gonna come in the back door with the ratty paper that the bird pooped all over because it was on the bottom of the bird cage, or it's gonna come in an odd shape and maybe you gotta peel back certain layers of it. But we don't realize is the way the delivery of it is none of our business. The how, and I love the way they say this in The Secret, is the how is not in our domain. The how is not our responsibility. But what happens is because the fear creeps in, either in how we're thinking about it, what we're feeling about it, what we're speaking about it, or how we view this, our whole central core of our belief. When we have to get into the how, something's out of alignment because we feel we've got to like hold on to it. And think about anything that you've held on to really tightly. What does usually happen? For example, water is a great example. We talk a lot about being in flow like water, right? When you hold water and you keep it stagnant, what happens? It gets toxic, right? It gets, good morning, Song. Yay, so glad to see you here. It gets toxic, it gets stagnant, right? And so water needs to be moving. Water needs to be flowing to actually create more energy, to create more power. And if you've ever seen rivers and you've ever seen, you know, the waves coming in, water in motion, water in flow is incredibly powerful. Water that's standing still, that's being controlled and contained in an environment, starts to get really toxic and smelly, and it starts to grow all kinds of mold and moss and other gross stuff. So think about that. It's that movement, it's that flow, it's that dance. When we try to control it, and especially the how, we get into, well, how am I going to make that happen? Instead of thinking, so the question isn't how you're going to make that happen. The question becomes, how am I going to open up access in every way to receive it? That's the release part. When you release your need to hold it, to control it, to push it or pull it, and you can allow yourself to be and allow it to arrive to you. Again, making sure that what you think about, speak about, feel about it, and how you view or believe about it are all in alignment with each other, that you're speaking the same language, that you're on par, you're in alignment, you're congruent with what that looks like. When those are happening, then you get out of the way. Then what you do is make sure everything you're doing is my activity, is my actions aligned with me opening up access for that. Not how am I gonna make that happen? Because then the next piece is people start going, when is that gonna happen? I need this to be tomorrow. Well, what's interesting is sometimes we'll say things, and I'm going to get into kind of a spiritual space for a moment, just to warn some of you that get a little, you know, sometimes you have triggers with that. I understand that. And again, when you have triggers, know that I can't trigger anything that you're not allowing to happen. So when there's a trigger, you always have three choices, right? And I preface this because it's important as we do this work. When you're triggered, you can do one of three things. One, you can decide, I don't want to participate with that. I'm going to step away from that. It's either a cop-out or a choice, or you just say, nope, not going there. Fair enough. No judgment, absolutely honor that space for you. The second space is the one I encourage you to get in, is to lean in and get curious. When there's something triggering for you, the only way we grow is to lean into that space to learn and understand what's going on. And so get curious without judgment. Witness your trigger without further judgment and further self-deprecation in that space. And the third piece is, for those of you that have done a lot of this work and you're like, I recognize that that used to be a trigger, it's usually kind of like water off a duck's back, where you're like, yeah, that doesn't even really get me anymore. I'm good, I'm clean, I can be present and listen to what's going on. So I just say that because as I step into a space more from a spiritual realm, or I'm talking about the universe, God, whatever it is you call it, Tao, Buddha, Penelope, whatever, it doesn't matter what you call it. I love, a friend of mine just wrote, he's talking about how he walks with angels and some of his experiences, and they're extremely powerful. And he talks about God, Buddha, universe, Tao, whatever you call it, doesn't matter, just call it. And so I love that. So that's kind of a side note. I just saw him post that yesterday. But as we get into that space and we think about when, and we're like, God, I need it today. What we don't realize is oftentimes we have this conversation going on, or this fight going on, that's like, how come this didn't show up today? It's not showing up today. And what we don't realize is, universally or spiritually, a day is like 10,000 years in terms of what we can grasp our mind or wrap our mind around. And so what we perceive as a day is a humanized container for how we are managing expectations, how we show up, how we operate, when in a spiritual sense, a day is a much larger, much broader, it's something that's way beyond even our time on this earth. And so when we think about that, there's something about allowing ourselves to release that expectation or that attachment to, oh my God, it needs to happen right now. When, right? And so let me pause a minute, because I know some of you are waiting. Yvette, what we want doesn't always come in a pretty box with a big red bow on it. No, most of the time it does not. Sometimes it's crumpled paper bag that we threw in the corner. Absolutely, Paul, good morning. And good luck. I know you got a big meeting today. So sending you lots of, before I forget, Paul, sending you lots of energy and love. I know you're going to absolutely crush it, bring your A game today. So we are cheering you on and bringing you lots of energy, because I know you've got a really powerful meeting later on today. So we are just all here lifting you up and supporting you, and know you're going to do amazingly well in that space. And Yvette, you're right. It doesn't show up that way, right? And it was interesting. I actually had a gentleman I was working with that was a client of mine. And we were sitting here and we were talking about it, and he's like, I'm really feeling called to move into this space. And he's like, but I need an attorney to show me how to do this. And I need, you know, and he was talking about all the pieces he needed. And then he started talking about how things randomly were showing up, how we got a call from a friend who wanted to introduce him to this attorney, how these things, and I just sat there and I was so perplexed, because he's sitting there going, I don't know, I'm waiting for a sign. And I looked at him and I said, what are you waiting for? For someone who's sitting here thinking it's not coming on a silver platter, I don't know how much more silver platter you get it when you tell me that you asked for all these things and you got every single one of them handed to you, like in a gold package with a red bow on a silver platter. And he looked at me and he goes, I never even realized. I said, you can't get more silver platter than that. And it's so interesting to me because we fight. I had another client. I was in San Diego. I was at a workshop that was for me. It was it's a EBC. I was at one of our conferences. And for those of you that know Evolutionary Business Council, a great group of thought leaders that I get to play with, and I'm so honored. And we were in our intense, annual retreat. And one of my clients texted me and said, I need to talk to you right now. I'm losing my shit, right? I got something going on. And I was like, I'm in a conference. I don't have space. I am fully present here. And she's like, seriously, I just need a minute or two. And I'm like, okay, all I've got is the space between going from this last meeting to the walk to lunch. That's it. I will give you that space. I can take the call while I'm walking, which basically I'm like, you got 2 minutes. I don't have much longer than that. So we get on the phone and she starts to just cry. She's upset. She's like, her POS system had gone down. And for those of you that don't know what POS is, it's point of sale. So it's the back end system for retailers, so that they can manage their inventory, they can manage their sales, they can manage everything, right? And they have capacity limitations oftentimes. And so she's calling me and she's like, oh my God, our POS went down. And she's just hysterical, and she's just winding and grinding in this space. And I said to her, what did you set forth as your #1 goal for this year? Because I was like, I literally stopped her. I was like, stop. I said, I need you to stop. Let's shift frames for a minute. I said, tell me right now, what was the #1 thing that you asked for, that you said was your goal, that was like your target for this year? And she said that I wanted to clear 7 figures in sales in the business. And I said, so answer me one question. Is your current POS, the one that just failed, is it capable of managing that level of sales? And she stopped for a minute and she goes, and she started to laugh because she knew where I was going. She's like, no. And I go, then instead of calling me having a complete meltdown, what you ought to be doing is dropping to your knees in gratitude and thanking the universe, God, whatever, for giving you exactly what you need, which is breaking your existing POS so that you'll invest and put the right one in, so that when you're about to hit that milestone, your POS doesn't go down right in the most critical moment, that you just got the opportunity to restack what you need to open up access for what you asked for. And she was like, holy cow, I can't believe I didn't see it that way. And I said, we joked. I was like, that's what you call a boot in the butt moment. That was just it was 2 minutes, and I'm not kidding. And somebody was standing next to me like, holy crap, what just happened? I'm like, boot in the butt moment, just cleared a client out, right? Just shift. Because it's just a shift. And it was a release. And I said, what I want you to do instead is I want you to close your office door. I want you to put on your favorite song, and I want you to do the happy dance. Because you asked the universe, told the universe what you wanted, and it's already setting up what you need to get there. So instead of belly aching that something broke, be grateful that it broke now so that you can set up the system you need to receive what you asked for. And I want you to think about how powerful that is. It is absolutely critical that we start to shift our perspective. We need to open up the peripheral view. I can't speak. Peripheral view and start to look at things from a imagine if standpoint versus the negative anchoring what if. So when we release the when, we release the how, and to the analogy that I just shared, release the why. Why is this happening to me? And then go, why not? Why wouldn't this be happening? There must be a reason. If I asked for this and everything that I think about, speak about, feel about, and how I view and believe about this, if they're in congruency, if they're in alignment, if they're congruent, then this is showing up for a reason. And a lot of you know I had a big hit in my business this past year with a client that I shouldn't have taken on, and it was a whole mess. And so grateful it showed up, because it allowed me to tighten up my systems. It's allowed me to offer some new programs. It's allowing me to show up with an even stronger voice, versus if this would have happened later on in my business where it could have been absolutely debilitating, right? And so good morning, Renee. Happy belated birthday. I know your birthday was earlier this week. I know you and Deb shared a birthday, so I hope you both are having a great birthday week. Good morning, good morning. And so I want you to think about that. Release the how, when, and why. Let it go. It is not your business. It is not in your domain. It is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to get so crystal clear on what you want. Like with all the color, all the juiciness, getting your senses engaged so that you are truly, as Stephen Covey would say, keeping the end in mind. You were looking at the outcome. You were looking at, and not the attachment to the outcome of, it has to look this way in this package, in this box, but the outcome of, what's it going to do for your life? How's it going to make you feel? What are you going to see? What are you going to open up access to? Because when you release attachment, as well as this whole expectation of how, when, and why something should or shouldn't be showing up in your life, when you release the attachment as well, which is the space of the outcome must be this, you open yourself up to receive so much more than what you could ever imagine. And so that's the other side of this, is the space of receiving, right? And so many of us block. The gift is right there. What we asked for is right there. But because it showed up in a way that we didn't have to like wind and grind, burn and churn, we're not hauling ass to get it done. We're not paying a serious price. It's no pain, no gain. If that equation isn't present, oftentimes people aren't able to receive that because they feel like they feel like they didn't do enough. They're not worthy enough. And I will say I've had to work on that myself recently. I am getting an opportunity to partner with one of my master gurus who wants to build something together, who is investing more of his resources first than I am. And there at sometimes it's been an imbalance where I'm like, oh my God, how do I step up more? I got to offer more. And I'm like, it's not about that. It's about he sees something that's in alignment. He sees something that says, this is our opportunity, and it's my opportunity to serve it forward in different ways and create this cycle of reciprocity, moving it forward, serving it forward. We talked about that yesterday, right? Pay it forward, lead it forward, serve it forward. It's not always a one-for-one, tit-for-tat. It's a space that if someone is gifting you something, sometimes the way you can pay them back is to gift it to another person and move it forward in that space. And so I really want you to think about that. And I'm curious, thoughts, comments around this idea of releasing. So releasing expectations, which is the how, when, and why. Allowing yourself to get really congruent and in alignment on what you think about, what you speak about, what you feel about, and what you believe about something. And then letting go of your attachment to what the outcome needs to be or how it needs to look. Again, it's that how, right? And really just get crystal clear on what's the outcome going to bring to you. Why is that? The why, in terms of why is that so important to you? What does that open up access for? And then receiving however the gift chooses to show up, right? It doesn't show up all the time the way we think. It shows up in so many ways. It could be that your POS system goes down. It could be that you have a really challenging thing in your business that's like in the moment seems so difficult and hard and turns out to be the biggest blessing that you could have ever asked for, and it clears things out in a way that you couldn't have done based on your own way to control things or contain things. Song, yes, when you let out the outcome, everything comes our way. Absolutely. The universe is designed to give you everything you want. And here's the kicker. The universe is giving you everything you want. or at least everything you're putting energy behind. And so if you are focused, and it's one of the things, and I'm going to get into some of this next week, I think, because I've been watching some feeds on Facebook and other things, and it's amazing to me how people think they can have real conversations on a social media feed, and all they do is get charged. It's very two-dimensional. It takes out that whole 70% of energy, which is, you know, body language, tonality, all of that. And people are fighting against so much right now, whether it's a politician, whether it's this, whether it's that, a policy, whatever it is. There's so much anxiety and so much energy to fight against what they don't like. And what they don't realize is they're calling more of that into the universe. The more we push against something, the more we say, I don't want this, the more we say hate. Hate is a really energetically charged space. And when we say things like, I hate this person, I hate their leadership, I hate that, what we're doing is we're feeding that energy and growing it. And I'm not dismissing the need to have conversation. What I'm challenging is changing the frame. So instead of pushing against what we don't want, is that we start talking about what we do want instead and moving towards that. Neurolinguistic programming is really powerful around shifting that frame from moving away from to, or pushing away from, to moving towards what we want. And if you drop into sort of your inner Mother Teresa and you realize that she was very adamant about that you would never see her at an anti-war seminar. You would never see her at an anti-war rally. She would always show up for pro-peace rally, because there's an energetic difference in what we're charging. And right now there's so much around, I don't want this, I hate this, this is, ugh. And what we don't realize is all we're doing is feeding the beast. We're feeding the very space that everybody is so just on edge about. Instead of stop giving that any attention whatsoever and move into a space to say, then let's call to us what we want instead. Because what happens is just by shifting the energy, we get in a space where we can bring what we want to us. Whatever you choose to give energy about, what you're thinking about, what you're speaking about, what you're feeling about, and what you believe, what your perspective is where energy is going to be drawn forward. And so if things are showing up and they don't look like what you want, it's your opportunity to drop in and say, what am I thinking about? What am I speaking about? What am I feeling? That's the big one. And what are my belief systems, right? Also paying forward is amazing. I love doing this. So do I. It's part of my whole DNA. I love being able to serve that forward. And I recognize that there's things in my life I wouldn't be able to do had people not paved that path for me. And those acts of kindness, that generosity, those opening doors, had I not received that and been able to step through that, I wouldn't be doing the work I'm doing now. And so now when I can, I do the same for others. It's one of my big drivers every day. Yvette, as I've gotten older, I realize that things eventually happen the way they're supposed to. That gives me peace because I know it will work out in the end. Absolutely, the universe has got your back. And the song, and the universe does not know the difference between $1 million and 10 million, so we do not put limits on the universe. Yes, we limit ourselves. The universe doesn't know the difference between $1 or $1 million. You are the one, based on your limiting beliefs and upper limits and what you're thinking and speaking about and feeling, are the ones that are limiting yourself. There is no limit. The universe is limitless. There's infinite possibilities in every direction. We are the ones that are limiting ourselves based on what container we keeping ourselves in. We have upper limits. We have things that are, whether you think you're in a box or not, myself included, there are boxes that we keep trying to punch out of based on our programming, based on our beliefs, based on things we've learned over the years. Mother Teresa never went to any rallies against anything. She would only go to peace rallies. Absolutely. She only went for. She never went against. And so think about that. If there's anywhere in your life where there's energy against, right? It's that, ooh, I want you to think about where's that energy towards, because it's a much more opening, expansive. And you know, I brought that back when I came back from my work that I did in Vancouver with my master trainer, was that every time you feel that contraction, which is that against space, that contraction, I want you to tell yourself and get into a mantra of expand. The more expansive you become, the more you absolutely can't be in that space against. The two energies are contradictory. So if you're feeling that against, that push, that pull, that's a contraction. And the moving towards the for space is a very expansive space. So I want you to remember that. Just tell yourself expand. Visualize the light. Put your Care Bear stare on. Imagine the light within you to just open up from your heart space, from your soul space, and literally your shoulders go back and you just think expand. It's amazing. Your head gets higher. That word is so powerful to create a shift. So I give you that as well. Renee, I find the most disappointment show up when my expectations were not shared in advance, especially my interpersonal relationships. Yes, this goes into the play of boundaries. We need to be very clear about what we're asking for and set boundaries inside that space, because when we don't set expectations for others and they show up differently, it is not their fault, it is ours. I'm going to say that again. When people show up not with what you've expected and you never gave them clear expectations on what you need or what you want brought forward, not their responsibility, yours. So I want you to understand that. That is on you. That onus is on you. Being open to natural process and welcoming blessings in throughout the journey has served me best recently. Absolutely. Meditation is really good for this. Yvette, from my earliest years, my dad always said, we don't hate. Yeah, it was interesting because I remember I used to get really charged. And I got told, even in some of my family, like my family's Italian, and there's a lot of prejudice and stuff I don't understand. And I would, as a younger, in fact, at my grandfather's funeral, my family really triggered me. And my mom made me walk around the block, and they lived in Pennsylvania, and the block was like a mile long. So I was like, I was 16. I wanted to get on. I wanted to like preach. And she's like, Candy, take a walk around the block. And I'd come back in huffing and puffing, and I'm like, she's like, take another block. I think I walked around the block like 8 times to cool off. But what was interesting, I used to tell my mom, I'm like, I hate prejudiced people. And my mother, in her flippant way, said, doesn't that make you prejudiced as well? And I remember dropping into that, being like, because it goes into that space of we don't hate. If I hate something else, if I hate how other people hate, doesn't that make me as much a perpetrator, as much a victim, as much someone not taking responsibility? And so I had to shift my language, because absolutely that word, and it's one of the biggest spaces of neurolinguistic programming that they teach you to get that word out of your language, that energy, that word, that thinking, that belief, because that energy is so damning. It's so powerful that you cannot be in an expansive space if you're holding on to that in any way, shape, or form. And that's where that blame comes in, that justification, that complaining, and you are staying in a victim mentality when you use the word hate. Even if it's like, I hate Brussels sprouts. No, I dislike Brussels sprouts. Not my favorite vegetable. Great, I love Brussels sprouts. I'm just saying that. People say, watch that word. Anywhere you're using the word hate, you're energetically bringing something to you I guarantee you don't want. It is a very powerful, very negative, very anchoring, and it is not the opposite of love. A lot of people believe hate is the opposite of love. It is not the opposite of love. It is an entirely different space. And so I want you to think about how to release that word. So Yvette, thank you for saying that, because that was a big learning for me when I was a kid. This past year, I've only been doing my best to reset, to call only positive energy. Yeah. And, you know, I get the conversations that need to happen. And there's people like, oh, if you're not playing in the conversation, you're contributing. And I'm like, depends on how you choose to play in the conversation. I refuse, and I mean that, I refuse to get involved in any of the hate game, any of the blame game, any of the charge. I don't want this anymore. Most of the conversations that are going on about politics right now, I won't engage at that level. I am very open to having open, courageous conversations to look at perspectives. I am not in one where one party or one person or one thing is going to pit against each other. Don't have an appetite for it. And so I challenge you in that space. This is an opportunity to release and receive. And so you are, whether you believe it or not, receiving whatever you're putting out there. And so if you want something different in your life, it starts with really getting mindful about what you think, what you speak, what you feel, and what you believe about any given thing. So with that, everybody, I'm going to leave you on that today. Hopefully that added some food for thought. It's been playing in well. Tomorrow, I am not 100% sure I'm going to be able to do Facebook Live. I'm not sure I'm going to Rachel Hollis's Rise event in Dallas with a friend of mine who gifted that to me, speaking of receiving. And so I believe registration starts at 7:30. I am not sure. So I may, one of a couple things, either may not be on Facebook Live tomorrow. If I can, I will be here, absolutely. or I may jump on a little bit later just to tell you how the event's going and say hello. But stay tuned, because I don't know whether or not I will be able to be on at 7:30 tomorrow morning just because of the scheduling. I've had good conversations about difficult topics, but I don't do it on social media. It happens face to face. Yeah, you're not going to have courageous conversations on social media. I don't care what the conversation is. It's two-dimensional. You can't get into a meaningful conversation. It's why I challenge people, when there's conflict, when there's triggers, don't do it on social media, text, or email. Pick up the freaking phone and talk to somebody, or get on a video, or see them face to face. It's only then that we're being courageous, and it's only then that we can create healing and change. It is not going to happen in any two-dimensional format. It's just not. People, you can't have a peripheral when all you're doing is looking at words and getting charged by words. So I really stress that, and I work with a lot of my clients and companies that I work with about that kind of level of difficult conversation. Courageous conversation requires face-to-face, or at least one-to-one energetic exchange. You are never going to change anything by hiding behind a computer and text and email. So just so you know. Yvette, yes, the wash your face lady. For those of you that don't know, I haven't even read the book yet. I have it, but I haven't read it yet. Rachel Hollis is the Girl Wash Your Face book author. She has a huge event. Don't know if it's something I would have went to, truthfully, but I had a friend that asked if I wanted to go with her. It was like, absolutely. What a great opportunity for us to have some quality time. Always open to see what other people are doing, and looking forward to it. It looks like it's going to be really powerful and fun. And I've been following her and her husband, so I know a lot of what she does. I also know her through my time with Brendan. She's actually been on Brendan's stage, and Brendan speaks very highly of her. So looking forward to experiencing that, and we'll, I'm sure, bring some nuggets back for next week. Like I said, I'm not sure if I'll be on tomorrow. I may be jumping on later. Just stay tuned. You'll see me. If I can, even if it's just for a few minutes, my intention is to try to squeeze in a Facebook Live tomorrow morning, if at all possible. So with that, everybody, make it an absolutely fantastic, amazing Thursday. Think about how you can really release and receive more, and how you can step up and take greater responsibility, because ultimately anything that's showing up in your life, anything that's not showing up in your life, you are responsible for with the frames and the energetic space that you're holding. So love you all. I will hopefully see you tomorrow. If not, we'll see you Monday. But go out there and live passionately, purposely, and powerfully, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.